The husband's day off. Once there was a man named George. George was always busy with work and didn't spend much time helping around the house. One day, his wife, Linda, had to go visit her sister, and she told George, "Since I'll be gone all day, I need you to do some chores." George nodded, feeling confident. "Of course, honey. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything," he promised. Linda left a list for him on the kitchen counter with all the chores he needed to do. The list said, "Do the laundry, clean the dishes, mop the floor, feed the cat, cook dinner." George thought, "This is going to be easy." He decided to start with the laundry. He gathered up the clothes, threw them into the washing machine, and turned it on. But when he looked at the machine, he saw so many buttons. He didn't know what they all meant. He pressed the heavy wash button, just to be sure everything would be clean. A while later, he heard a strange sound from the washing machine. He opened it to see water and soap overflowing everywhere. There were bubbles all over the floor. And the clothes looked soapy and tiny. He had accidentally shrunk all of Linda's favorite sweaters. "Oh no," George muttered, "not a good start." But he shook it off. "It's okay," he thought. "I still have time to do the rest." Next, George went to wash the dishes. He filled the sink with water and soap, then put all the dishes inside. But he didn't notice that he had put in way too much soap. As he scrubbed, more and more bubbles started rising. Soon, bubbles were overflowing from the sink, covering the entire kitchen counter. "Uh-oh," George whispered. "Another small mistake." He wiped away the bubbles and decided it was time to mop the floor. He poured the floor cleaner all over the living room floor and began to mop. But he hadn't read the bottle, which said only use a few drops. Soon, the floor was covered in a thick, sticky layer that smelled so strong it made George sneeze. Frustrated but still determined, George moved on to feeding the cat. He found a bag of what he thought was cat food, poured it into a bowl, and called out, "Here, kitty." But when the cat sniffed the bowl, it just looked up at George like, "Are you serious?" George realized he had given the cat dog food. Finally, it was time for dinner. George decided to make spaghetti. He boiled the pasta, but he left it on the stove for too long, and soon, the pasta turned into a sticky mess. Then he tried to make tomato sauce, but he accidentally used a spicy hot sauce instead of tomato sauce. When he tasted it, his mouth felt like it was on fire. Just as George was cleaning up his final mess, Linda came home. She looked around the house in shock. There were bubbles in the kitchen, sticky floors in the living room, and a confused cat refusing to eat. Linda sighed and asked, "George, what happened here?" George scratched his head, looked at her with a small smile, and said, "I think I might have done the chores a little too well." Linda couldn't help but laugh. "Well," she said, "at least you tried." From that day on, George was known as the world's funniest helper. He still helped around the house, but Linda made sure he had clear instructions, and she always kept the cat food and dog food far apart.